Okay, so you want to know how to stick a face on another body, or how to cut and paste stuff in Photoshop. Okay, we need some pictures. Here's a group picture. Here's an Obama picture. I'm going to take Obama's head, and I'm going to stick it on this guy's body. Okay? Okay, fun. Now, you'll probably notice up here at the top it says 66.7% and 33.3%. These have been scaled way down to fit on the screen. Okay? If you want to see the image at full size, for example this one, I'm going to hit Control 1. That's the image displayed at full size. Of course, the whole image doesn't fit on the screen, which is why it was shrunk down. Over here on Obama, we'll do a Control 1. Holy crap, that's a big picture. Ew. Anyway, so we're gonna zoom Obama back out a little bit so that we can see him a little better, and maybe less of that nose hair. Blah. Anyway, so we're gonna zoom Obama back out, and I'm gonna grab everything except Obama's head, and I'm gonna do that using this tool right here. This is the magic wand, or the quick selection tool. And the way the quick selection tool works is your cat walks right up and he sticks his nose right on your mouth while you're trying to talk. Okay, sorry. So I'm gonna left click, and oh look, oh, it's selected that circle. How exciting. Here's the cool thing. If I left click and I drag, it starts analyzing the area I'm dragging through and making certain assessments. So it went, oh, well, this is all basically one color. Now you'll notice, oh, it grabbed part of Obama's head there. Now, the handy bit is I can hold down the Alt key. Notice the cursor turned into a little minus sign there. And I can drag that along his hair to deselect that part. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I've got this chunk, but I want more. I want to get rid of this suit, so I'm going to grab the suit too. Now, because I haven't clicked on anything else, as I start selecting, it just automatically adds that to this selection. If I click a little piece, well, it just selects a little piece. If I drag, it selects a much bigger piece. And it tries to select areas that match what I'm going through. So you'll notice that it's doing this great job of just selecting big chunks of this image. Now this is what I really want. Now notice everything but Obama's selected pretty much. Now, we could make the argument that if we zoom in enough, we can see little bits of his face have been selected, some of his hairs outside the area. But that's close enough for what we're looking to do. Okay, so I've got everything but Obama selected. I'm going to press the delete key. Poof, look, now I just have Obama's head. Now, I don't really need to do it this way. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that action. What I really want to do is I want to come up here to the select button, and I want to invert my selection. So here's inverse. Now I've selected just Obama's head. Now, I'm going to run into a problem here because this head is gigantic. So if I copy it, and I come over here, and I paste it in, holy crap, Obama. Your head needs to go on a diet. So I'm going to come over here. This is a tool that can be used to work with layers or selections. And we can see this head is way off all edges of the screen. In fact, it's outside the borders of the image. See these little rectangles? These allow me to select and drag things around. I'm going to left click one. And up here on this top bar, I have some tools that will allow me to work with the dimensions of the head. Now, this little chain is the maintain aspect ratio chain. When I click it, anything I do to width will happen to height. Okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make this head 50% the size it is. And that's still an awful big head, isn't it? It fits in the picture now. So maybe we need to deflate Obama's head a little bit more. So let's try 25%. Still pretty big. So we'll go, now he's really small. He's a t-shirt icon. Whee! Let's go for 15. How's that looking? That's a little closer to what we're looking for, isn't it? That's getting more in our range. Okay, so I'm going to OK that by clicking the checkbox. And I'm going to come zooming up on this part of the picture. And I want to try and get Obama kind of set in here. I want to get his neck to kind of line up with this guy's neck. So I can see that I'm still, well, if I get down here a bit, that's probably not bad. So that's right about where his head should sit on his neck. Okay, so now we can see Obama's head's off to the side and part of this guy's head showing out the back. We're going to deal with that stuff in a little bit. But one of the first problems that we can see is that Obama seems to be just a little bit lighter than this other guy. So what we want to do is we want to start playing with matching the skin tones. And this is massively, massively painful in a lot of respects to handle, because there's a lot of tweaking and playing that you can do. We're just going to go for a rough. I'm not going to try to make you guys watch me do this for 8 hours or anything. So first thing I'm going to do, notice here we've got part of the shirt kind of white showing there. I'm going to go ahead and use the eraser tool, and I'm just going to erase that shirt bit there. Now you'll notice this is not affecting the image under it. So this is probably a good time for us to talk. And I'm going to hit Control-1 to zoom back out. This is probably a good time to talk about layers. Right over here we have our layers. Obama's head is on a different layer. That means essentially it's a different image that's just showing on top of this one. So it's got a transparent background, and all that's visible is Obama's head. But it's a completely separate image. So whatever I do to this image on this layer does not affect the background layer. And vice versa. Anything I do on the background layer will not affect the Obama layer. Okay? So that's handy for stuff like this, because we can do a lot of playing and tweaking on Obama's layer and never mess up this background image. Handy. So let's jump in, zoom back in some more. Now that we've gotten rid of those white edges, let's start trying to match some skin tones. And this is a process that can be really grueling and long-term, or it can be fairly short. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that layer 1 is selected. It is. It's blue. Background selected. Layer 1 selected. And I'm going to go over here to my image, and I'm going to make some adjustments. Actually, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to auto-color this image. And it's going to try and look at the image's layout in memory, and it's going to say, well, this image seems like maybe the color is off by this much. And the next thing that I want to do, whoops, let's come back to the image, and I'm going to auto contrast and auto tone. And I'm just doing that because it makes it easier for me. If you're a better artist than I, you may want to go in there and tweak things separately. Well, you're going to have to do that on your own. This is the quick and dirty version. Like I said, this stuff can take hours and hours and days if you really know what you're doing. So let's get in here now, and we want to darken Obama up some. And there's a lot of different things that we could do. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our good buddy, and this tool is called the Color Dodge tool. That's not what I want. I actually want, and I'm just left clicking and holding, I want the Color Burn tool. Now I've got my Color Burn tool cranked way up, and notice up here the brush size is 100. I can set it to anything I want. I wanted a nice big one so that I don't have to mess with the image a whole lot. Again, this is quick and dirty. So when I drag this across here, notice everything is affected. The whites of the eye get affected. Everything gets affected. Now, more care would probably be a good thing, but we're going quick and dirty here, okay? So we're not going to sweat the details too much because we're lazy. I mean, because we're in a hurry. So I want to darken up Obama's midtone some. So here we go. Dark, dark, dark. Yay. Obama, get your tan on. And maybe I'd like to darken up the shadows a little bit too. Woof, that's a little too dark. So maybe instead I'll darken some highlights. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, so we're just adding color in here. Now notice the skin tone has gotten a lot closer. Not, wow, that's amazing close, but it's gotten closer. So what I want to do now is I want to come in and I want to go to my image and make some adjustments. And I want to do some color replacement. Now you might wonder, well, why didn't you just do that to start with? I wanted the skin tones to be fairly close so that it would be easier for me to handle. Now I've got this thing cranked up to 118%. You can set this to whatever you want. You can see the lower you go, the more precise your color. You know, you're getting, well, that pixel matches. Well, no, there aren't any pixels that match that exact color. You know, oh, here's oh, no, not getting a lot. All the way up to 200% where pretty much everything gets selected. Now, I added 118. We could crank it down a little more, set it to about 100. And what we're doing here is this is determining how much of the color is being affected. And this is saying grab anything that's fairly close. And the white areas are what's going to be affected. The dark areas are less affected. The black areas are not affected at all. Now, notice this is selection. If we switch to image, it doesn't really help us. But sometimes if you're dealing with an image that you don't just have a discrete thing that you're working with, that can be helpful to see what you're clicking on. Now, down here is the replacement color. And we can go in and tweak and play with this a lot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my selector, and I'm going to come down a little bit, a little darker. And, you know, obviously I can do this and make Obama look really weird. I can do this and, well, that doesn't look right either. And that's why I'm kind of tweaking around in here, trying to get something that's fairly close. Now, that ain't perfect, but it's pretty close. Now, there's obviously some issues. We've got these discrete lines showing up here. Now, what am I going to do about that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tool called the rubber stamp, or the clone stamp tool. And what this allows me to do is select an area of an image and copy that and paste it into another area. And I can do this by drawing, which is really cool. Now, notice a couple of things. First of all, I've got a very small brush. I'm going to be working with a very small border area here. I don't want a very big brush. Second thing, notice over here where it says sample, I've got it set to all layers. The default is current layer. But I want to actually sample from below where this other guy's at as well. So I'm going to grab current and below, or I can select all layers. These are my options. I'll select all. It doesn't really matter. But this gets me the ability to go in and opacity and flow determine how much is applied. Opacity is a fading kind of a thing where it's partially transparent. We're going to go whole hog on this one because we're going fast. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, all right about here I want to start blending. So I'm going to say Alt. Notice it turns into this little target. I'm going to left click. That selects my starting point. And from there I'm going to come up. I'm going to put the mouse over here and I'm going to left click and I'm going to drag. And notice the little plus is showing me where it's taking from. Now, not a perfect blend, obviously, but it's a start. And you'll see me use the Alt key to turn on this plus a lot because I do a lot of blending this way. And one of the things you want to watch out for, notice here there's sort of a pattern emerging. Pattern is bad. We don't like patterns because patterns give away what we're doing. That obviously did not work out very well. I'm just going to Control Z to get rid of that. One of the things that we can do to deal with patterns is go in nearby, try and grab stuff that's similar and tweak it a little bit. We can come in, this is the blend tool or the blur tool, and grab the blur tool, and I'm going to grab a smaller one. I want me, how's a 9 look? That looks good. Notice this has fuzzy edges. I like fuzzy edges. Strength is 50%, so it's not going to be super hard. And I want to sample all layers while I'm blending. So I want to blend between the top layer and the bottom layer. And I'm just going to try and come in here. Notice this looks really blurry. So I might actually want to drag this down to maybe 15% so I can... That's a little better. And I can play around with a lot of stuff on this. And I can grab the smudge tool. Whoa. Like a much smaller smudge than that. And do a little playing as well to try and get rid of some of the obvious problems that I see here. Now, let's sample all layers on that one as well. That's better. So I'm just trying to clean this up so that the join portion isn't as noticeable. Now, over here, we have a real disparity between colors because this is a very dark color and this color is pretty light. So what do I want to do there? You know, I'm going to just take the color dodge and I'm going to zoom way up over here. And I'm going to try and color dodge a little bit to get close. And I'm not going to pretend like this is going to come out looking very good at all. It's going to look like crap. And that's way too light. I think I want to hit midtones. That's a little bit better. Maybe a little more. There we go. Zoom out. That's not bad. I'll take it. Now, I'm going to grab an area here, switch to the background. What I want to do here is I want to use this to mask this guy's head where I don't want to see it. So I'm going to just use a Control-C to copy that, and a Control-V to paste that. Now notice it pasted under Obama, and he looks a little weird now. Oh, what happened to my head? However, as I move this up, notice, hey, I can move it into the back, just between the two layers, and get rid of that guy's head, the portions that I don't want to see. Now, Obama's looking a little better. I can see some roughness over here, so I'm going to zoom back up on that. Maybe that was too much zoom. I'm going to hit the Alt key and zoom out a little. And I think I'll try smudging that a little bit. Try and blend it up in there a little bit. And I'm going to take that. That's pretty good. Now, at 100%, this doesn't look super great, but normally I don't want an image like this for most things that are this big. Now, depends on your application. A lot of times you want an image that's way bigger than you want. For example, if I was going to put this on a web page, this image, if we go to the image and take a look, is 1280 by 963. That's huge. That's like the size of your monitor if you have a relatively decent monitor. So I may want to change this image size up a little bit. You can see what the size in inches is as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, typically if I'm going to put something on the web, I want it to be 600 to 800 pixels in width. So I'm going to set this to 800. Now you'll notice this little chain here is making sure that the height matches the width. That's good. I'll say OK. And that's a little better. Now you'll notice Obama's head looks a little big. Maybe his head might be a little big, but it fits on there pretty well. That's basically what you need to do. Now, obviously, there's a lot of fine-grained detail that you can get into with this, but this is basically what this all comes down to. Now, how do I deal with this? Because I've got all these different layers and stuff, and this is not going to save as a JPEG because it's got all these layers, and JPEGs don't have layers. What I want to do, I want to save two versions of this image. In case I decide to come back and work on it again later, I'm going to go and I'm going to save this image as group.psd. That sounds good. That is my Photoshop document. That contains the layers, all the stuff I've done. Yay. Saving. Saved. Now, the image that I want to use, I'm going to go to Save As. Actually, cancel. I'm going to go over here to my layers, and I'm going to right-click on one of the layers, and I'm going to say Flatten Image. What that will do is it'll take all the layers and merge them down into the very background layer, and that means there won't be any layers anymore. So when I say Flatten Image, what I see is what I have. Now, there are no backgrounds. This is the actual image now. Now that can turn into a JPEG. So when I go to File and do a Save As, it's going to ask for a Photoshop document again because, well, Photoshop likes Photoshop documents. But I can come back here and say, no, I want a JPEG. And I'm going to call this Group 2 and save that. How big should I make it? That depends on what you want to do with it. The larger the file size, the better the image quality. But you can play with this because typically they give you a preview. Notice when I set it down to low, wow, that looks really pixelated badly. So as I start playing around, I can look and see where's my trade-off. Because notice here at high, the image size is 103 kilobytes. Here at maximum, it's 308 kilobytes. Is it worth it? That's a question only you can answer. If you were taking this to a printer's, then you want maximum. If you were going to put this on the web, you don't want really big, huge images on the web because it takes forever to download. And if you've ever been to one of those sites, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It just really depends on what you're trying to do with it. So I would say, for example, that doesn't look terrible. I can see a little blockiness there, maybe a little higher than that. That's probably okay for what I want to do with it, which is nothing, really. It's on you. Choose what setting works for you. I'll go throw it back up to high just for the hell of it and say OK. And I'm done. Now, when I go to close this, it goes away. When I go to close this one, it goes away. When I close Photoshop, it goes away. And now, I have this picture that is just a picture. I can take this, throw it on websites, email it to people, whatever I want to do. Now, in theory, I could email around the Photoshop document, but not a lot of people can look at that. This guy can go anywhere. Now, you can see I had a whole bunch of different people I was playing with, but I went for Obama on this one. That's how you put somebody's head on somebody else's body. Yay. The end.